God gave rock and roll to you. Gave rock and roll to you. Put it in the soul of everyone.
We all live together, one big family. Can't be separated from one brother, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Area 312 Rock and Metal Vodcast. And friends, today, my co-host Mike and Rex and myself, we are privileged and stoked to have none other than Tim Bushong from Lovewar, Larry Worley from Fear Not, and Stayce Roberts from The Brave. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hey, how you doing?
Thank
Doing
you.
good.
Hey
Thanks
guys.
for having us.
It is an honor to have each of you. And Mike and Rex, I was doing just a little bit of studying like we do. These guys are actually a member, Tim and Larry and Stayce. They're a member of about 3 or 4 different clubs that are the same. One is the 90-20 club. Here's what I mean by the 90-20 club. The Brave, Lovewar, and Fear Not have each gotten a 90% rating on their albums on Angelic Warlord. That's pretty amazing. You know, 90%, that's high. That's first class. The 20 part of that, yeah, the 20 part of that is each of these bands, Lovewar, Fear Not, and The Brave, at minimum have had a 20-year gap between releases.
Well, we have to tune. It takes a while. Change the drum heads.
So that's the 90-20 club. There's been a point in each of their band's careers where there's been a 20-year gap between releases at minimum. They're also a member of the MLB club, and it's not Major League Baseball. That's what I call, and I mean this in a good way, metal's last breath. Whereas we had bands like, Daniel Band, Res Band, Barren Cross, Bloodgood, bringing in the metal, some of the last quality metal that we had in the early 90s were brought to us by Lovewar, Fear Not, and The Brave before grunge took over. So thank you, gentlemen, for providing that last supply of crucial, metal oxygen to us.
Well, I thought MLB was musicians who love the Bible.
And there you go.
That was-
Yes, another group.
So now you're double MLP.
Boom.
Yeah. Another club.
Yeah.
Perhaps we best know them, though, friends, as you will recall, in the 80s to the early 90s, Pakaderm Records, the rock stomps here, each of these bands, if I'm not mistaken, their debuts were on Pakaderm Records, and that's why we're here. You remember the slogan, not only the rock stomps here, but come join the herd.
Yeah.
Well, today with Lovewar, Fear Not, The Brave, Tim, Larry, and Stayce, this is the Pakaderm Herd Roundup. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So we're gonna segment this, and I'd like to start with you, Tim, and ask some questions about Lovewar, and then we'll go into the other bands and Larry and Stayce as we talk to Tim, and then so on and so forth. Please, all the harassment you can offer to each other.
No worries.
Tim, Lovewar. Your demo came out in 1990, and it featured you and Rick Armstrong on bass, who was the bass guitarist for White Cross on their 1989 album Triumphant Return, and Greg Purley on drums.
Yep.
Tim, my first question, how did Lovewar form?
Well, originally Lovewar was myself and a bass player and a sequence drum pattern on a big and sonic keyboard. We would literally play live like that. I met Greg, it was New Year's Eve, I think it was 91. We got together, found out he was a good drummer. And actually the original 92, and that was just myself and Greg. We put the whole thing together. It was after we got the record deal with Pakaderm, which was like later in 93. And I just want to give a shout out to a guy who's since gone home to be with the Lord, John Heald. He was the main writer and publisher of a kind of a metal magazine, one of those underground print jobs. And he's the one that called me and asked permission to send the demo to the Elefante brothers. So we'll see you someday, John, you know. So anyway, when we got the Dino and John flew us out fall of 93, we thought we wanted to use them because their skills were pretty up to snuff and up to par, as I'm sure Stayce and Larry can attest. What they end up with is a real rock record. And so we signed with them, and that's when we scouted around for a bass player. And we live in northern Indiana, and we heard Rick lived in Michigan, and we're like, well, no problem. As if Michigan is this little county somewhere. We'll find him, you know. So then we went and recorded the Lovewar Soak Your Brain record in June of 93. Yeah.
Well, and it's a wonderful album. And whenever your friend, Tim, when he sent the demo to the Elefante brothers, what did they say about your music? Because you guys are known, and to my listening experience with you, you guys bring the technicality aspect. And I'd also like to ask you about your lyrical approach, because Tim, you're a pastor. And I'd like to ask a little bit more about that down the line.
That's what I've turned into.
Are apologetics something that you enjoy, that you delve into?
Well, let me just say, remember the old SNL, Chico Escuela?
Yes, sir.
Francis Schaeffer has been a very, very good to me.
Very good.
Yeah, I got interested and actually began teaching and actually exercising apologetics probably before I had any business doing so. You know, as a very young, zealous Christian, cut my teeth on, you know, all the big guns of the late 80s that were being thrown my way. A.W. Tozer, of course, that's from Glenn Kaiser's influence. John Stott, The Cross of Christ, Cost of Discipleship, Bonhoeffer. Then, of course, C.S. Lewis blew my mind. And then I'll never forget who it was and where it was, but I said, well, who do you read? And he said, well, Francis Schaeffer been very, very good to me. So I started picking up the letters, first of all, then his trilogy, then How Should We Then Live, then the great, the Great Evangelical Disaster and all that stuff. And then I figured out later that Schaeffer is kind of a distillation of Abraham Kuyper and of Van Til and some of Greg Bonson, but that's a whole nother show right there. So yeah, very, very interested in literature, in high poetry, where there's not a lot of words to say a lot of ideas, very economical, making it down, which helps in, to be honest, all those years, guys, I'll tell you this, Stayce and Larry, all those years of just playing off the top of your head, just improv, jamming, that actually comes into the pastoral ministry because you're able to speak extemporaneously, but you still got this kind of reserve of information and stuff you've already imbibed. And I think it kind of plays together. There's a form within the freedom, or the freedom operates within a good form. Well, that's kind of the way, proclaiming the gospel. You've got a lot of references, but you actually stick to the text anyway.
It's still 12 bar.
Huh?
It's still 12 bar blues, right? You just take it wherever you want to take it.
I may not get it, but I like it.
And if you do something wrong, do it twice. Call it jazz.
Right. And as Rick Nielsen said, never apologize. Just say, I meant to do that.
Exactly. Or just shake your head. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I do a lot of shaking my head.
There you go.
Think a little bit deeper, is it all the same?
Well, Tim,
Yeah.
your lyrical approach, it's very deep and thought provoking, at least to my simple mind. I applaud you for the approach. And then the music is of a technical aspect as well, a metal-esque technical aspect. And I don't mind saying, I mean, you guys are your own band, but I was a fan of early King's X, and your technicality reminds me a lot, and even a little bit of the soundscape. It's in certain junctures remind me of some of the early King's X material. What I'm curious about regarding John and Dino, what did they say to you? What were their thoughts when they first heard your music? What did they tell you about your music?
The very first thing they said was, Tim, my advice to you is to grow a goatee, sit on a stool, and play in jazz clubs. No. Actually, then they said, oh, you want us to give advice that's good for you. Oh, great. No, and here's an interesting thing too. Like when I let Monty Colvin from the Galactic Cowboys listen to the stuff we were working on after Soak Your Brain, he listened to, as I was listening to the digital audio tape of Machine Fish, which was great. I'm like, oh, good. I get to hear the Cowboys before anyone hears them, you know. He listened to our whole thing on regular cassette, and he said, oh, man, there's Aerosmith, there's Extreme, there's Joe Walsh, there's all. I'm like, yeah, exactly. You know, he kind of got that. But at the same time, you're right. There was a certain attitude towards the sound. One of the things that I required in the mix was that there would be no reverb used on the guitars at all. Whereas obviously on the snare, they've got the lexicon going, you know, it's part of the Pakaderm thing. Mix on a Neve and there's your lexicon. Boom. But nothing on guitar, so that everything was just up in your grill as far as the percussive nature of things went. And yeah, I learned an awful lot. I was in school Tim mode at Pachyderm in '93. No. Michael Sweet was there recording his solo record that came out then in '94, and so we got to know each other a little more, talking, and he was, you know, kind of hanging his head about the way the band went back in the Against the Law days. I'm like, hey, I understand. Yeah. So we're listening to the early mixes of the Golden Rule, and then the second verse where that weird break where it just he just stopped everything. He goes, dude, what was that? I don't know. We thought it was fun, you know. Here's another thing. All right. So have you all heard the Bunny record, our 2020 or our 2019 thing? So there's some tongue-in-cheek stuff in there too. I'm a huge Spike Jones, Weird Al music comedy thing. I don't know if it came out as much in Soak Your Brain, but just little playful aspects, things that, you know, that you think are cool and you hope other people think are cool and all that. But like you say, underneath it all is this lyrical approach to truth and reality and God's world as God made it, God's law. And so yeah, we did get a lot of good compliments on the lyrics, and people in college are like, oh, thanks for not insulting my intelligence. I can play this for my friends and not be embarrassed.
Well, I got to tell you, you know, when that album came out back then, I was a young developing conservative at the time, or shall I say, I was a reformed liberal, because I thought I was a liberal when I was a teenager, because that's what the news told me I was supposed to be. Yeah. And well, late teens, early 20s, I started developing my conservative mentalities.
Your worldview.
Yeah. And you know, your album was like the first thing I ever saw that just was not ashamed to just say it like it is. And that really spoke to me.
Man, you don't know what that means to me. Thank you so much.
Tell you what, when that album came out and I heard it for the first time, I wanted to just put my guitar on the wall and just hang it up. I was like, that's so far beyond me. I don't even know why I'm here.
Well, it's funny because the ground that I thought Lovewar walked in, you don't go into that unarmed. You don't go, you know, if you're gonna be influenced by the Galactic Cowboys or King's X, if you're gonna take that on, you have to know, especially as a musician, you have to know everything that goes on underneath the hood to make it come out the right way. And I first heard Lovewar because I went down to the studio and Palacios was there, and he goes, dude, because me and him were, you know, we were guitar buddies and we shared licks and stuff. And he goes, you got to hear this guitar player. And I go, who is it? And he goes, this new band that got signed. So I sat in the control room and I mean, you know, I'm no slack on guitar, but when I was done listening to Bushong, I was like, take the guitars and I'm done. What is this?
Yeah.
You guys,
But
man.
it's a real tough place to be, man. So I big claps for me because I was totally into it. I still have the album. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
great
That's
one.
very, very kind. I remember playing a gig down in Southern Indiana, and it wasn't very packed. You remember how it is. You get hired by these little coffee houses and stuff, and you know there's like 40, 50 people. You're like, okay, great. And these two guys sat right up front, center, didn't move. And after the gig, they like, we drove 4 hours to see if you were going to be able to pull this stuff off live. I was like,
I can believe it.
well, okay, high praise indeed, I guess. Thank you. Yeah.
Tim, 1993, Lovewar, Soak Your Brain. Heaven's Metal Magazine, HM, they ranked this number 47 out of the top 100 Christian rock albums of all time.
Agreed.
And so that's
Probably not high enough though.
That's
Duh.
awesome.
your thoughts and feelings, Tim.
Well, I'll tell you what. So the 1992 demo that basically got us the deal had what became Soak Your Brain on it, Space and Time, all that stuff, except for Stand Under It, which I completely revisited for the Bunny record. David Bach was behind us, Tony. I got to be really good friends with all those guys. Do you guys know I used to go on the road? My wife and I would rent a light show, and then we'd provide production because they had that big carbon PA. So we did a bunch of dates in 95 and 96 with Guardian, and got to know Tony really well, and actually kind of steered him towards maybe a different kind of evangelistic approach, as he would always bring the message. So anyway, all that to say, the idea that, I don't know, if you're gonna go out there and put it on the line and try and speak into people's lives, it's nice to have street cred, but man, you gotta have the content. You gotta be just like today with the social justice movement. They're trying to do the right thing in all the wrong ways.
Yeah.
They want to show favoritism so that justice is done. Well, I'm sorry, you'll never end up with justice. You're going to end up with favoritism.
Yeah.
Well, same thing. We're gospel centered, and if you don't know it or not, I am one of those 7 pointers.
I heard the quotes. I'm one of those.
Big scare quotes. He's reformed. But
Hey, just speaking of those guys driving 4 hours to see if you could pull it off, I could attest to that. You remember the show we did down in Houston?
Oh yeah.
And that
Yeah.
one, I mean, I stood out there and I was just like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going on after this.
You're too kind. I remember you had your 5150 head,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Can I borrow a cabinet?" "Yeah, sure." Play through the jacket, whatever. That was fun, wasn't it?
It was fun.
Man. Floating around in the big wave pool, listening to Fear Not, Larry's dulcet tones. Man, what a voice, dude. Yeah.
Oh, he was unstoppable. And
Yeah.
and we did several shows with him, but you guys may not know this, but Tim and I have never met.
Right. We never
So
played
we
together.
had just passed, we
Really?
were kind of like two ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
We were aware of each other, but Tim, you also wouldn't know. I was the guy that said, man, we got to go, because these guys became buddies of mine. And I'm going, you know, me and Larry are going to do something. What we ought to do is get Larry and Tim, and we should all just sit around and talk. It was like a good cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Light the candle, see the flame. Can you see tomorrow's a new day? Light the candle, turn away. The end and the beginning.
That's pretty amazing. I was wondering, one of the questions in general for all of you was, I did have the question of if you guys ever had the chance to interact in your earlier years with the bands as you all were on Pakaderm. So Stayce and Larry, I'm taking it that you all interacted, and then Larry, you and Tim interacted with Fear Not and Lovewar, but then Stayce, the Brave and Lovewar were never actually on the road or played any gigs together. Is that right?
It is right, but it's also because, you know, like Tim said, we were so busy playing. We were out on the road playing all those big shows, like at Faith Fest, where the only people that showed up was just two people with faith, which made it a fest because there was nobody there. That's how huge we were, you know.
Tim, I would like to ask you about the Lovewar eponymous album on Rocks Records. It came out in 2019.
Yeah.
And Tim, what at that juncture, what led to the band, I guess, having a reformation at that time and deciding to release a second Lovewar album 26 years later?
Let's call it 25. I like how that sounds. A quarter of a century.
Okay.
Well, it was basically, if you look around, you're in my studio, you know, this is where I work. So I do this all the time. In fact, when I got off the road from the Channel Surfers, that's what I did. We had, you know, somehow finagled more advance money from Organic, and I, you know, bought gear, and I told them what I was going to do with it, and they were happy with it. So I've been recording pretty full time since 2000. And since we had, you know, I have access to all the stuff, and there sits those songs that were actually kind of cool. And I thought it was a pure lark. I was like, guys, I think this would be cool. 25 years later, release all the stuff that never got released back then. So we were able to kind of pick and choose, and you know, there's still like 7 or 8 songs that aren't going to get re-recorded, but it was fun, and it was great to see the guys again. And actually, it was if you're into studio recording and stuff, it's when I made the big leap from Logic to Reaper. So that record was the first record I ever mixed on Reaper.
Nice.
Reaper rules. Come on, $60, guys.
No. I got Reaper when it was free. Before I started charging $60.
You bet, yeah. I used to use it just to do MIDI tracks, just to write MIDI and then export them into or import them into Logic. Yeah.
I used to do the same for Pro Tools. I had Pro Tools, but the MIDI was so bad
Yeah.
that I would always end up gravitating over to either Reaper, but then I got into Cubase, and now that's where I've been stuck for pretty much.
I almost went there.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
They're all good tools.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just kind of a lark. I thought it'd be fun, and I knew I was going to take a lot of time in it, so that's why I did the Kickstarter, just to make up for some of the. You know, my wife's like, I know it's going to sound good, but you know, bills, hello. So,
Tim, what about those extra songs? Because rumor has it that around 20 more songs, kind of me doing a little research, you had about 20 more songs that you all had recorded after Soak Your Brain. I know that some, I'm not sure how many, but on the eponymous 2019, I know of at least one song that was put on there, but these other songs, I don't know how complete they are, but is there any chance of those being released in some format to those of us as fans?
now I did, when we did the Kickstarter, I did kind of a, what do you call it? A bonus box set where I have some of the Lovewar stuff that we'd done in like Well, guys, you'll appreciate this. Remember when Mackie and ADAT came out, everything
Yeah.
changed.
Well,
And then D88 or whatever. In fact, a lot of the stuff got demoed on an old Tascam 1/4-inch 8-track. It all included. What a cool machine. Not a lot of real estate on that tape for the drums, but pretty slick.
yeah.
So a lot of that stuff we recorded in, one was in a warehouse. We did 6 songs. Another was up in a friend's apartment. I was always borrowing gear and, recording gear, that is. And then another bunch of songs were recorded in a big old elementary school gym. So all that's kind of floating out there. But here's the thing, if you like how the self-titled sounds from 19 or 18, and I'm like, okay, well, it should sound at least that good, right? So I'm not going to release anything until I can re-record it. I don't have access to the original tracks.
Yeah.
So that begs the question then, Tim, is it possible or probable, is it on the table at least, the idea for Lovewar to put something else out?
Yeah, Tim, why not?
I'll be honest. Every man has its price. I'm going to go, no way. Look, I'm pretty busy. I'm a pastor of it's a Reformed Baptist church that's in the Southern Baptist Convention. I still tune pianos on the side. I still do the studio, and a church of 60, 70 people can only afford so much, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Here's the thing, guys, you appreciate this if you live in an urban area. I'm less than 1 mile from my church house out in the country.
No.
It is so cool.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, I got an entire 1-minute drive.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
man.
rough.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
rough.
love that.
Here's the other thing.
Yeah, but
And
a 1-minute drive where you're at, though, it could take you 3 hours to get there because of the snow, right?
Hey, what about traffic? Yeah.
So
On any given Sunday, there'll be maybe 4 or 5 1979 graduates of Wallasey High School, of which I am one. So
Wow.
I can't put on airs. Everybody knows where my bodies are buried, and it's all good because it points to the person and work of Christ
That's right.
in the transforming power of the grace of the gospel. So you'd think that'd have played into my favor. Well, it could cut both ways too. Hey, didn't I used to buy grass from that guy?
well, so Tim, a simple solution, if I may offer a suggestion to your flock there at your church, when it comes time for that new Lovewar album, you just start preaching on, I feel the Lord calling us for better tithing. You just preach a sermon on more tithing.
No, here's what I'll do. I'll start a series on divine determinism and empty the room out. I don't have to worry about it, right?
That's right.
I'm
So
kidding.
really quick, and Stayce, we'll get to you next, buddy. I do want to ask though, Tim, let's really quick touch on the Channel Surfers. You were on Organic Records. 97 was Where I Want to Be. 99 was Tunnel Vision. You had comparisons.
Reverse that.
Oh, did
Tunnel
I get
Vision
the?
was first. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you all had comparisons as the Channel Surfers to the Police, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, funk, alternative, and rock. Tim, why the change? Because you were still doing music. Why did you decide, okay, let me put Lovewar down at this juncture and let me start up this style, this band, the Channel Surfers?
Right. It was pretty natural, to be honest. Rick left Lovewar. He just having some issues. Like, it's better if you attend to those. Got this bass player who's a monster and a local guy. And then Greg eventually got to the point where he's like, I just don't want to tour. I can't leave whatever he had a pretty decent job. As it turned out, it was God's providence that he kept that because his wife ended up getting cancer and his insurance covered the whole kit and caboodle. So it was good. And so anyway, the two guys that we played with, we were still kind of doing the hard rock metal thing, but it just didn't seem like my gut reaction was, you know what, this really isn't cutting it. So we found a kid that sang in a hardcore band. I never heard him literally sing a lick. You know, he's there in the front with the 58, good crying and stuff, swinging off the rafters. Like, well, he'd make a good lead singer. But found out he led music at his church so he could sing. And my drummer, Lance Hill, who's now an LA cop, he said, you know, why don't we just do music that people like to dance to and is fun. So I kind of just went back to my 70s roots with Little Feat, Joe Walsh, not Chili Peppers, Ohio Players, you know, because I'm born in 60. I'm an old guy, you know. And so it was just a natural fit. I got to be honest, that was the most fun band to play live in I've ever experienced. And television, again, it's one of my proudest moments as a producer, is just putting all that together. And it was a blast, you know. But I got off the road. My son was getting older, and I was already teaching in our local church. And I thought, strategic. I don't need to have a truck driver schedule and be gone half the year. So that was basically it. Yeah.
Friends, go check out Lovewar. It's the eponymous album. You can go to Rocks Productions, and you can also find Fear Not's material, but excellent stuff from Lovewar. Some of y'all might not have realized that in 2019, Lovewar did put out another album, so it's worth checking out.
It was a funky record.
Say what, Stayce?
It was a funky record.
Funky, yeah.
With that cool rabbit.
It's all symbolic.
I loved it.
By the way, you can find Tim Bushong music, Lovewar, and the channel servers. It's all up on Spotify and Apple and all the stuff. I did a hymn record back in 2020 that I'm really happy with. I'm going to try to re-release that, and then my metal Christmas from 16. That's a lot of fun too. But anyway, it's all up on the whatever digital media. I still need to get vinyl of Soak and the Bunny record.
Yes.
Tim, do you have an address, like an all-in-one inclusive that might have some, do you have a website presence, an online presence that maybe I can put in the description?
Probably the best way to get a hold of any of that would be on my Tim Bushong Music on Facebook.
Okay, Tim Bushong Music. Okay, I will put that address in there.
I'm going to move all the studio stuff over there too. And I've got a YouTube channel with a bunch of music on it. And
okay.
yeah, I haven't been very systematic in my self-promotion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So let's talk about then, Stayce. Great year for the Brave.
Oh yeah.
Man, great year for the Brave. Evie's Little Garden, part of that 90% club again, just like Lovewar's eponymous. Evie's was voted by Angelic Warlord #3 of the top 25 of 2021. Congratulations, Stayce. It's a wonderful album.
Yeah, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Yeah.
I love that album.
Now, Stayce, being as this is the Pachyderm Herd Roundup, just for kicks and grins, let's recap on how the Brave initially formed. Tell us how you initially formed, Stayce, and what was the year for the Brave?
Formed in '88 under the band name Fax, Faxx, and we gigged all around Southern California, did a bunch of street ministry down in Hollywood. We're really involved in our church, and we were playing locally, and John Elefante had come to see another band, and we happened to be opening up for him. And that started about a 1-year process of them kind of following us. And everybody we would play with would go back to Pakaderm and they'd say, hey, was there anybody good? And they'd go, well, there weren't too many bands, but well, there was this one band. And so, we did some shows with Guardian that Dave Priest set up for us. And Guardian would hear us, became friends with them, and then they go back and tell John Dean, man, there's this band called Fax. And I think that the thing that distinguishes me from the other guys isn't Evie's Little Garden, it's the fact that they were singers and I wasn't. So the only common thing that the three of us share is guitar. But now that I'm singing, you know, I can't imagine what it had to have been like for them, because they had to work, they had to go and cut tracks with John, and man, I thank the Lord that I missed that boat.
So that's
Yeah.
another club everybody's in.
Tim's got it right. It was that.
That's another club, though, guys, that these three gentlemen are in. Great guitarist club, and each of y'all have brought something very distinct under the umbrella of metal, your own distinct sounds. So, Stayce, you answered my next question, which was recapping on how the Brave became included on the Pakaderm roster. You're saying, basically, they were saying, hey, guys, just the facts, man.
Yes.
Because y'all were facts.
That's right.
Trust followed. You had another release on Pakaderm, and your brother, Randy, sang lead vocals, did a great job on that.
Really good job, yeah.
20 years later, here's that 20 club coming in, Rise surfaced as an indie.
I don't know if it's surfaced. I think it more went underwater.
Rise rose.
It was still fun cutting the tracks, you know. I didn't have the budget for it, but at least my heart was in it, but the fidelity wasn't. But
well, it's okay, because that album was followed by what I consider in many your Piece de Resistance, 2021's Evie's Little Garden. Stayce, Evie harkens back to the best of late 80s, early 90s hard rock and metal. Before laying any tracks down for Evie, Stayce, did you return maybe to Battle Cries or Trust for purposes of remembrance, you know, like this is how we did it, you know, this is.
I don't know, really. I mean, it's, you know, it's like what Tim was talking about with his influences from the 70s. You have what you have in your DNA. And I mean, I can't avoid going back to before the 80s, because the people that became the people in the 80s to get that 80s sound, they had to borrow from the 70s and the 60s to figure out what the next step was going to be. Just like the 90s said, well, why don't we just throw all the rules out and let's just play out a key? That'll be fun. That's how it started, right? So it went from people learning the rule book to the guys in the 80s starting to really redefine that rule book of how guitar playing was going to be and how songs were going to be and how much we were going to look like chicks. And, and so it went from in the 60s learning to play the instruments, learning to absorb the blues and turning them into cohesive pop songs. You know, the Beatles were obviously the masters at that, the Rolling Stones, bands like that. But then we get to the 70s, and then you got the Eagles, you got all the bands that I'm probably the biggest fans of, you know, Fleetwood Mac, bands like that. And then that segued into the 80s. So by the time I came around in late 80, you know, I was almost too late. So my band started in 1988. We were signed in 91, made Battle Cries, went out on the road. When we leave, Fear Not gets signed, and then Lovewar gets signed. And then we come back, and like Tim said, Michael Sweet was still in the studio when we came back to do Trust. That's where I met Larry. He comes in and he sings on our Trust album. And then Pakaderm moves back to Nashville. Well, when they did, you know, we originally had a 5-album deal. And the edict was kind of like, and not in a bad way, it was just they were going to move. They knew they wanted to be back in the Midwest and do what they wanted to do around Nashville. And it was good for people in bands because you could hit so many states in a short amount of time. But it wasn't for me because I owned a music store at the time. Before they left, I was selling 5150 heads to Dino, and he was buying stuff from my music store all the time for the studio. But they left, and we didn't get to do albums 3, 4, and 5. And the bummer about that is when they went to Nashville, I don't know what the deal situation was for Lovewar or for Fear Not, but all that music that we missed because music took this drastic turn. But I would have loved to have heard, I loved the first Fear Not record. As a matter of fact, in one of the new songs on our new album that's coming up called Gravedigger, I have this song called Bad Day where I'm basically telling the devil that it ain't gonna happen today, pal. I know this age-old game and you do it really well, but you can just, if it's up to me, you can just go straight back to hell. But in it, it says, I got my earbuds cranking. And it's cranking out We Have a God, because that's one of my favorite songs by Fear Not. I listen to it all the time. So I finally made you famous, pal, just like Billy the Kid used to do, right? But then, you know, we went on and I think one of the things that I think probably is true for all three of us is the reason we came back and made albums. I know this is true for me. I'm just guessing it might be for these guys. Is we all ended on Unfinished Business, which is another club, because we didn't get to finish out the ride we thought we were going to take. We didn't get to finish, you know, I'm sure Tim, the most deep guitar player I think I may have ever heard. And I was no slouch, Timmy. I was pretty good. And then I heard you and I'm like, you know, I know what it means to find the blue note on the blues scale, but this guy's got green, red, pink, sapphire.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was like, and the arrangements, I mean, I love the songwriting. I thought it was awesome. You know, I loved Fear Not because we were kind of, Larry and I were two different sides of the same kind of coin. You know, maybe I was a little bit more on the Bon Jovi side and he was more on the like Skid Row type of bluesy rock. And Tim, I don't know where he came from, but wherever it was,
Tabor.
what a great ride. I love that.
Yeah, buddy.
I say the first record because it would have been the first of who knows what came next if Pakaderm would have stayed put. Same with Fear Not. I would have loved to have seen that progression. You know, I would have loved to have seen where the Brave ended up. I mean, we had a short time and it affected us for the rest of our lives. It was really nice to have a little spot to, you know, to come from, at least to have a place to come from. And like Tim, as you guys, I've talked with you guys, I'm talking, and Larry's, I got something to say about Larry here in a second too, is we learned so much. If you were paying attention, if you were smart enough to pay attention, sitting there with John and Dino, they were happy to show you anything, you could sit in on sessions, even if it wasn't yours. Jeremy McNeely, Doug Biden, the same thing. They were just a wealth of information you were able to be around. And the albums we made, I think it's important to note also that there was no digital, there was no Pro Tools. I mean, everything you heard us play, we played it. There wasn't a lot of, you know, Tim, you could fly the vocals like on those DATs, you could offset your machines just to be a pain. It took more time to offset those reels than it did to actually just go sing the chorus again.
Yeah, right.
You know, so we weren't a digital band like these days. If you can cut a song relatively quick. When I send my stuff back to John and Malcolm, when I'm mapping something out in Cubase, once I've got my verse, I'm going to just treat it like a Word doc and stick where it needs to go. But then I'll play guitar parts live over them. But I'll have my arrangement basically set up over my drum. I was a drum machine guy too, Tim. Mine was the TR-707 Roland, baby. And I've got that again because I bought the Roland cloud subscription. So I've got all those old things that, you know, that Roland had, which you'll hear on this next record. But I think that it's to all three of our credit that our bands, we weren't faking it. I mean, when I heard Fear Not live, I heard Fear Not. It's what the album sounded like. You know, I would have loved to have been one of the four people that drove umpteenth hours to go see Lovewar, because I would have absolutely, King's X is one of my favorite bands. And that's what you guys, more Galactic Cowboys to me, I think, because the arrangements were you know, my stuff's easy. My stuff's, you know, in case, if I want to go off on an odd time signature, I do it just because it's fun. But, and I can do that, but to get a whole group of people, especially when you only got 3 people to do it, to hit all those pushes, the chains, the time signatures, it's no small feat, you know? So, I mean, I tip my hat to Lovewar as I did with Fear Not, because Fear Not was my wheelhouse. Fear Not was where you know, that's what I knew. But when Lovewar came out, I was like, this is really getting cool, because John and Dino weren't signing the same artist. All of us had something that was unique to us. You know, with us, when he signed us, there was 2 guitar leads like Night Ranger and James singing and good songs. And with Larry and them, good songs, you know, cool look, really cool sound that the world needed, especially in light of the ministry, that if you ever came into Christian rock thinking you were going to come in and make some money, well, I don't know who lied to you, but the real thing is that I tip my hat to all Christian rock musicians is you already know that it's just an industry. They may put Christian at the front of it, but the Christian part is the work that we do, right? Most of the industry, it's not really led like that. It's still it's still a money pit for a lot of people. John and Dino, to me, had the right thing going. You know, they still talked about Christ. They still they could still just be normal guys and sit and laugh with all of us. And they were really good at making relationships happen. That's how I met Larry. You know, if I had been around when Tim was around, I'm sure we would have became friends. That's how we all became friends with Tony and David and all those guys and Michael. But it was a good Motown type of model where had they stayed in California, man, I don't even know what would have happened to the Christian industry, but it may have toppled country music at some point of its popularity. Because I was starting to see shows that were, you know, aside from the Faith Fest gigs, Tim, there were a lot of festivals that were really, there was something happening there, you know, where the crowds are getting bigger and bigger. And
I'd say for us, it was Cornerstone 94.
yeah.
That was it. And I met, that's where I met Chris Neiswanger from Precious Death.
Yeah.
And that was kind of it for us. It was like, well, at that point, now I was going to say, the old joke is, how do you end up with $1 million in Christian music? Well, you start with $2 million, and the other thing is it's like someone said years ago, there's no middle class. You're either one of that rarefied air few artists that actually are economically making money,
Yeah.
or you've got this terminal blue collar normal Joes like us that just hit the road and sweat it out and feed their families and all that. So yeah, good point.
But the magic that the payoff really was, if your bands were good, which all three of ours, I think I can proudly say that all three of them were really killer bands. We sounded like that when we played, you know. So a lot of people come to me and they say, well, you know, how did you ever reproduce that Pachyderm sound? And I always tell them, well, that wasn't Pachyderm sound, that was my sound. Pachyderm just captured it. That me and my band, that's what we sounded like. They just polished it. You know, Lovewar, great move on removing the reverb from the guitars, because if any of that would have got washed out, and I don't know, just for you guys that don't play, if you stack guitars especially, which I assume you at least went left and right, Tim, but if you stack them and there's reverb on any of them, they start washing out.
There's 3 tracks.
Yeah, left, right, middle.
Yeah. And Dino wanted the middle one just for kicks and giggles.
Well,
Let me say one thing to what you said. So when I flew back from Los Alamitos, and my wife picked me up, and I had the tape, I had the old Maxell 90-minute, and we popped it in the car. She goes, I don't know what I expected, but that sounds just like you guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
Yeah, they didn't take us and then go, okay, now, have you guys heard Petra, This Means War? Well, we're gonna make that with you guys. It wasn't that way at all. It was, you know, and to John and Dino's credit, they got to know us enough to know what our musical relationships were. You know, they knew that for me, I wanted the big drums. I wanted that big Def Leppard thing. That's what we were striving to do, because I just came out of that era, and that was who I was as a songwriter. With Larry, I thought Fear Not was much more of a raw kind of album, you know, and but the songs, it was almost like Fear Not made Trust before we made Trust, because when we made Trust, it really wasn't that big of a stretch from your guys' album, Larry. I mean, it was the same vein of bluesy, you know. I don't think we did the blues as good as Fear Not did, but we were such a kind of a candy pop type of band where I always wanted that safe journey, Foreigner kind of thing. But I still, I own a company, right? And I have about 24 employees. And every time I'm starting to get a little bit aggravated with someone, I go, "Hey, Mr. Attitude." And I always think of Larry. They get the point that the boss is upset, you know?
Yeah, I know just who you are, so you won't get very far. Another bad day. Pick the wrong place to play, so just stay out of my way. I know you're bad. Oh, you're always snaking like a snake in the grass.
I had a couple things I wanted to comment on. First of all, I want to say, Stayce, I don't know what that next album would have sounded like if the Brave had been able to keep going at that time. But I will say that with Evie's Little Garden, I mean, I don't think the third album could have sounded any better than that. I mean, I've still got that album in my
That's
CD
cool,
player.
man.
I was listening to it this morning. I mean, it's just a great album, and I don't think you could have done any better.
It's in my truck.
And the other thing I want to say, though, I just want to comment a little bit on the Pachyderm sound. For me, for my ears, you know, that Pachyderm sound that I think most people think of, I mean, I would hear that on the Petra albums, of course. I'd hear it on Mastodon albums.
Yeah.
I would hear it on like some of their projects like Rock Power Praise. But other than that, really, when it came to more individual bands like the Brave or Fear Not or Love War, I didn't feel like I heard that sound. I felt like I heard you guys sounding like you guys. So, yeah.
That's a good observation. I think what you were finding was John and Dino finding their groove, because they were doing pop stuff. They were doing a little bit of rap. They did some metal with X Center, you know, it was kind of an AC/DC type of thing. But they were learning too.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, John wasn't working in the studio when he was with Kansas, and Dino was the guy who, hey, my brother's in Kansas. They had a vision. And when they started this, their methodology and their thought process made sense if you were one of the lucky bands that could get on that roster. But it's where all of us wanted to be. It wasn't because they invented the Pachyderm sound. That sound was what the sound we heard in the 80s. They were just really good at it. But they still were finding a way to let, you know, I don't think the Brave sounds like either one of these two, and they don't sound like us.
No.
They were very good at letting your personality come through. I think by the time Love War came in, you had to kind of put your foot down to what you wanted it to sound like, because if you didn't, you could have been guilty of maybe our guitars would sound more alike, because we were using a lot of the same amps in the same studios and same mics, you know, same preamps.
Yeah,
And,
we had our bumps and bruises when we went in, hey, more gain, no less gain, no more gain.
Let me tell you something, nobody knows where the grave digger goes. Boots on a shovel, kicking bodies in a hole. Burying sins that are left alone. Nobody knows where the grave digger goes. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, yeah. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Stayce, I need to ask you before we move on to Larry and Fear Not. First of all, you mentioned, you know, you all had some unfinished business, and I am so thankful that you all are here and finishing your business. And I'm thankful it's not finished yet, because you guys have been blessing us with some great material, and thank you each for that. Gravedigger, it's on the map for 2022, a 2022 release days. What would any similarities be with Evie's Little Garden regarding Gravedigger, and what would any differences be, Gravedigger juxtaposed with Evie?
Well, I get, if I was talking to Larry, because we talk all the time, if I was talking to him, I would tell him that Evie's Little Garden was just us clearing our throat. But and the reason is because I don't I think Mike's right on point with our third album probably would have been, I think Evie's is kind of that perfect mix between Trust and Battle Cries. I think the only difference is I had 100% control of this album, right? Because I write all the songs. Gravedigger, as far as, you know, I'm going to be the first guy to ever sing 2 Brave records. So I'll be the first singer that's made it on to 2 things. And Evie's I was kind of learning my way. I knew I always knew I knew I could sing all the way back then, but I didn't want to, you know, I saw what these singers would go through with John, and I loved watching it because I wasn't in it. But I didn't want to be on the other side of the glass, because I mean, I would sit there and see guys that had killer pipes, and you know, John would work with them, including James. And you know, I told you guys before, John's one of my all-time favorite singers. I love his voice. He can sing so good, and he can sing it at the volume that I'm talking at, which I don't know how he does that. I don't know if you guys have figured that out yet, but I don't know how to do that. When I sing, I mean, it's concert. The crowd's right there, and most everything that you hear that I record is always first and second takes because I don't want to beat a dead horse. If I hear in my head how it's supposed to go, I sing it out how I think it's supposed to go. Fortunately, I've been lucky enough to where it seems to be working. Gravedigger is more mature, but it's not I didn't depart from the style of songs that I write. There's just some different stuff. Now, Larry's heard probably 3 or 4 of the songs off the album. It still sounds like the same band, but it's different kind of songs. It's different. I think it's like getting in the same car and taking different trips, you know? I mean, it's still, it's familiar. But.
Yeah. I'm not gonna give anything away, but you know, like he sent something over and I listened to it, and I will say this, my reply was, that's probably my favorite song yet.
Yeah.
Are you engineering everything, Stayce?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I don't have the studio that you have because I saw some of the clips on when you were doing Star Bomba with Bride, which is a great album, by the way. So great job on that. I don't have that amount of, your studio is actually built out. Mine's, you know, Evie's was done in my bedroom for the most part, but now I've got the right kind of mics. I've got, you know, I'm running a Raven, which that's what I was going to tell you guys. Larry is now also the proud owner of his own Raven. So he's got the same MTI2 that I have. So he's got his 27-inch up here and 227s here.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff, you know, most of the real engineering that I think really comes across is as long as my gain staging is good, I've got all the right parts cut. I do most of my engineering with the way I arrange the songs. I make sure that every section has things that I think are needed.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I send them to JR, and I don't know how it is with you and Bride, but with JR, if he hears something he should move around or take out or, you know, save for the second verse, he has full capability on my end to do that because of my trust in him. I mean,
So
you guys all know
you're not mixing yourself?
No. JR McNeely is.
Oh, well, great. Not me, buddy. I'm doing everything, including mastering. Well, I mix other bands all the time too. I just finished 2 this week. Tracks come in from Nebraska or Louisville, and I'm like, yeah, I'll mix you, and you know, I still get paid for it. So, all right, great.
Yeah. So that's, you know, I do most of all the music that you hear on Evie's was done in one place except for the bass guitar, but I've bought a whole lot of stuff since Evie's. So I've got a whole lot more things that I can play with to kind of come up with ideas. And when I'm writing songs, you know, I always try out keyboard patches. I'll try out pre-recorded loops or things like that just to kind of get inspired. But once I actually start on these songs, I mean, you're never going to hear a song from me that took more than 10 or 15 minutes. Because once I hear, you know, I don't know how it is for you, Tim, or you, Larry, but Larry's heard me say this before, that I feel like if I don't write down an idea if I don't sit down and actually write, songs are going to pass right over me. I don't ever feel like I write them. I just feel like I receive them. And then if I don't get them, Tim might get them. You know, Tim might have just released Evie's Little Garden if I would have sat down that day and done it. I don't know.
Stayce.
But yeah, so yeah, Gravedigger's it's still gonna be 12 songs. The one thing that remains true to it, like it was in Evie's, is that every song is different from the next. So of that, I can assure you.
When might we see a release for Gravedigger, an estimated time or estimated month this year?
Well, it's February 12th today. JR will start receiving tracks in about 2 weeks to start mixing. And I don't know how they send stuff to you, Tim, but I send one at a time. As I finish them, I get the drum. So I demo a song up here, send them to the guys. They send me their parts back. I import them. I recut my guitar so I can be with the groove of something other than perfect timing of a click. And so then we start trying to get that vibe going. And then once I finish all the vocals and stuff, once I get it back from the guys, it probably takes me a day or two to do everything I'm going to do to it, because the melodies aren't going to change. Chorus isn't going to change. The guitar parts are. So then once that's done, I ship one song at a time to JR. He has more than enough time to do it, you know, a week or two, usually about a week, he sends it back to me. So I would say, in answer to your question, since there's 12 songs again, which I swore I wouldn't do again, but I did anyway, because I got too many songs. I would say maybe August, maybe July. my wife's trying to get me to do it quicker, but I go, babe, I still got a Christmas album and I got an album with Larry to do. So I got to get this ball rolling. So, and Tim, just for the record, being as you've got a past with some Christmas songs, Larry and I'm a song and a half away from being done with Gravedigger. Larry and I are going to start working on a project within the next month. And he's got a song that, if you guys have not heard this song, called Silver Mountain, it's one of my favorite songs. My wife loves it. And it's just a live,
Sorry.
you
Could
know,
say that
oh,
again?
there's Siri again. We would love to get you involved. I mean, if you want to, maybe contribute with some things with us, we would like to, and that goes for my Christmas album too. I'd love to have you as a guest player. So,
Love it. That'd be great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The herd rides again.
Let me bring this up. My very last thing that I had, perfect juncture for this. Here's a thought. Tim, Larry, Stayce, what if you three put together a super group, perhaps with a bassist and a drummer from the Pakaderm lineage, and actually called yourselves the Herd?
I don't like litigation.
I didn't know if there was actually a band called the Herd, but I think it would be awesome if y'all did something like that.
There was Mark
super
Herd.
group. So I need to ask you a really quick, Stayce, before we move on to Larry here. The Christmas album is also due this year, and I believe you told me last time all original songs, all original Christmas songs. We've heard one single, Christmas Every Day, or as I like to say, Christmas Every Day. Stayce, when might we see this Christmas album come about this year?
We're shooting for mid-October. I don't want to come in right around Thanksgiving because there's not enough time for people to actually get it for the holidays, So if we can, beginning or middle of October, it really just depends on JR's schedule of when he can finish the mixes to it. But I would say probably October. And then I will tell you, after that's over, I'm going to take about a 2-week break. I'm right back at Brave 3, so I'll be working on the next one. I've already got material for the next record, so so we'll keep developing that,
Awesome.
We found a love straight from the top, and it's coming down. Ain't gonna stop. Yes, we have a God, and His name is Jesus. Yes, we have a God.
Mr. Larry, we need to get to you, buddy. Fear Not. Goodness. You guys formed out of Love Life. Goodbye, Lady Jane. I mean, great album. The eponymous album was released in '93 on Pachyderm. Larry, please refresh us, going back all those years, on how Fear Not initially captured the attention of John and Dino at Pachyderm.
Well, a lot like what Stayce was talking about, because we were all out playing, playing out in Hollywood and, meeting the guys from Guardian and stuff, and I think a lot of that credit goes to them. I mean, they had, if they saw potential in a band, they really got behind you, and they spoke up and went to bat. I remember doing a show with a band, a friend of ours called Surrender and Guardian, and I was standing backstage, and I if I remember correctly, I think it was with Tony and David, and we were just talking, and they're, Tony's just like, why are you guys not signed? And was like, because we had left the blonde vinyl, at that time, so we were just kind of scouting around and doing our thing, and we're just like, well, we're just waiting for opportunities, and he was just like, well, we've been talking to John and Dino, and as far as I'm concerned, you guys are ready, that's what he was saying, and I'm just like, just say the word, and I honestly don't remember how we got in contact with them, it was probably Gary. Gary did a lot of the business end of it at the time, and I'm just like, you take care of all that. I just want to write the songs and, play music, the whole business end of it was just made my head spin, so Gary was always a really good business minded man. And so I kind of have a feeling that he had a big part of it and was just like, hey, we're going to do a showcase for John and Dino. And, there was that, I don't remember what it was called, Stacey, but it was that we rehearsed there a lot in Orange County, that big rehearsal.
Wasn't it SIR?
Yeah, I think so.
It
And
was,
we
yeah.
had the big room. We rented out the big room, and we had it all set up, and I just remember it was John, Dino, and was it
Ron
Dave?
Goldner?
Dave? For some reason, I want to say DePesto or.
Oh, David Del Sesto.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
And it was those three, they sat all the way in the back on the back wall, man. And I just remember just, rocking it out, and they just kind of just sat there.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know what kind of an impression we were making, but we got a chance to sit down for quite a while afterwards, and we just seemed to hit it off, and we were all of us were like-minded, and so it wasn't long after that they said, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, and
Yeah, but while you were in that room, Tim, did you guys have to do that? Did you have to set up and play in front of them before you signed?
No,
Tim says no, the music spoke.
yeah.
no, they just heard our tape and we met them and that was it. So yeah.
We call that the Godfather moment, because it was like the way they made you feel. Even though, they were very pleasant guys. Once you guys know them, they were just a couple of goofs. But they like to do the Godfather thing where you felt as a band like you were the one explaining why you stole the money.
Right.
And they're just sitting there making you explain it.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to, and they're going, yeah, but be calm and be normal and, just play like you would. And we're like, we can't now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shoot.
That was a good time though. It was good. It was fun.
Larry, was the second Fear Not album ever in the works for Pachyderm back then?
Yeah. I started writing songs. In fact, there was a couple of them that I'd released. And I think one I actually released with a band called Liberty and Justice. And it was with goodness.
I remember that.
Gosh darn it. I'm trying to, the names escape me, but anyways, You Got Love and Love Is All Right. There was a couple of those songs, but one of them was, on, I think it's on the Fear Not reissue. Is it not?
Let's see here. There's
As a demo, like,
this is the reissue from Rocks. It's got Take Hold, and
were there a couple of, no?
it might have. Let me double check here. I'm not seeing them listed as far as the song list.
I wonder where they are. Well, one of them was released on the Liberty and Justice album, and then one was released on.
Here we go. Bonus tracks. Yes, You've Got
Yeah.
Love.
Yep.
And Love Is All Right.
Yeah. So those were in the works at that time for the second album, for the Fear Not album. So those songs are like 25 years old. In fact, those songs I had done back then after Fear Not had disbanded, and started working with Robert Sweet and Bobby McNeil and Rod. Rod was actually going to play bass with us, and we went in the studio and tracked those two songs, and then Robert had two songs that we demoed. I wish I could find that. That was pretty neat. but that's where those songs came from. Yeah, but then, you know, like exactly what Stacey was talking about earlier, you know, the move to Nashville kind of came about, and you know, we had plans of us, you know, once they got settled in, to fly out there and, you know, start pre-production and stuff, but you know, it just never happened, you know. And just with that, you know, just with the struggles of just trying to survive at that time with the whole music shift and everything, you know, it just kind of seemed natural to just kind of end it there, you know. I wish
You
it
mentioned-
didn't have to come to that, but you know.
You mentioned the struggles there, Larry, and hey, how about that beautiful song from Fear Not, Struggle?
That's a
Loving
great
that
song.
Yes, a teaser that you guys put out for us, I believe in March of 2021. Now, before that, though, in 2019, For the Wounded Heart was released on Rock's wonderful EP. Eddie Green's brought in. I love his grit. I love his vocals. Very thankful that you guys, you know, came back on the scene, and I am highly anticipating, you know, after hearing Struggle and then For the Wounded Heart before that. And you also, you didn't sit on your laurels, Larry. You were in November of 2019, you released your Testify solo album.
Mm-hmm.
Beautifully Broken. You all, Fear Not, when we had you all on, you shared a beautiful song with us. When will the new album see the light of day in 2022?
Yeah, Larry.
I know.
I'm getting tired of waiting, man.
Stacey's gonna have 2 or 3 before we put out this one. We're hoping within the second quarter of this year. So my goal was to have everything done and in Rox's hands by the end of this month, you know, to at least try to get it out by April. But, you know, I'm not sure. I'm still, that's still a goal, but, you know, it looks like it might be delayed a little bit, but, you know, it's just the logistics of everything, and just trying to get these guys going has just been a little struggle, to say the least. But, you know, I mean, it's life, you know, I mean, everybody has life, and it's okay. You know, we're not frustrated over it, and it's all God's timing anyway. So we just sit back, and when it's ready, it'll be ready. But, you know, I mean, we're moving along, and it's my job to try to keep everything motivated and going. So I'm doing the best I can.
Well, it's also one thing to have Larry's got a really nice setup. He's got a nice room and everything. But what he's got that's harder than what me and Tim deal with is there's only 3 in each of our bands. He's got 5. And the 3 guys in my band they have their own recording rigs. They all know what they're doing. You know, John's in Logic and Malcolm's in Cubase. But Larry, I think, is the primary engineer guy. Yeah. The other 4, I don't know where their level of, you know, recording experience is. And Tim probably just makes them all come to his house and sets up nice preamps, and, you know, I don't know how he rolls.
Yeah. Well, Gary does have access, you know, out there, and Rod does as well. But Chris is, you know, and he doesn't mind telling you how, you know, he just really struggles with that end of it, you know. But you know, he's actually flying in Friday and we're gonna finish up a few more songs on his end of it. And you know, I've got him set up over at his place, but now it's just a matter of, you know, maybe me taking some time and going out there and really kind of getting him dialed in and showing him. But you know,
Just for the record, and I want to apologize to Chris Sorensen because I was so, I confess I'm a fanboy. I'm a fanboy of Lovewar, Fear Not, and The Brave, and practically everybody we have on. I'm not ashamed to say that. Great music, and all the bands were used as vessels to minister to me, and all glory to the Lord. I absolutely love Red Sea, their album
Yeah.
Blood. And Larry, when you guys were on, I was just so happy to have Fear Not on that I told Rex afterwards, I said, how could I forget that Chris Sorensen was a part of Red Sea? And exceptional album. I love his slide work, his lead work. And anyway, I hope, Larry, I haven't ever had a chance to see Lovewar in concert or The Brave, but Larry, you guys, our friend Brad Buell mentioned that Fear Not was coming to Lead Hill, Arkansas, which is, I believe, right by Harrison, or very close. And that's about 2 hours and 30 minutes away from me. I hope to see you guys when you come around.
hey, that'd be awesome.
So it would be awesome.
Good deal.
Yeah. I am super stoked, as I believe Rex and Mike are, that you guys, there's new material coming out. And Tim, you, in the not too distant past in 2019, but I'm hoping there's more from Lovewar to come, because all of you guys have awesome.
Oh, there's more.
If you
Yes.
gentlemen have, if you guys, each of y'all would want to take a turn, want to be respectful of everybody's time. And then Mike, of course, he always leads us in some scripture closeout toward the end of our episode. But Tim, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Larry, and then you, Stayce. If each of you guys would like to mention something, anything, it could be about your releases or just, you know, whatever's on your heart, maybe that the Lord put on there. If you could make a statement to leave a lasting impression with your fans throughout the years, what would you wish to tell them?
And can I add one thing to that?
Yep.
While you're doing that, could you also maybe just share like a favorite memory about working with Pakaderm? You know, since that's kind of what the episode is about. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm just blown away. You guys are very kind, and I think that probably the best compliment I ever received from anyone was after we put out the Bunny record. I get an email from Dino, and he said, "Tim, John, I just listened to the whole record, top to bottom. Phenomenal, killer."
That's Dino.
That's pretty good. We're pretty good, guys.
That's
Right.
not bad, dude.
Right?
Yeah,
Thank you.
man.
Thanks. And, you know, I'll be honest, for me, I'm 61 years old. I'm in the autumn years of my life, and I still like to rock, and I still kind of bring that sensibility, even to my hymn records and stuff. But for me, the pastoral ministry is my central focus. And, you know, God does what he does. I've been a pastor now since 2006. Very, very much a churchman, very much involved in the lives of the folks in the congregation. And in fact, I'm going to be on John Harris's Conversations That Matter, recording Tuesday on theology of music. It's more geared towards church music, of course, but I'm looking forward to that. And I would just say that the gospel is so glorious that we, you know, if we don't use God's words, we're going to try to euphemize soften the blow. You know, I have a saying that I coined: "Don't pull punches where God's throwing them." And of course, that is also balanced with a bruised reed He will not crush, a smoldering wick He won't extinguish. So it's all balanced there. And God made Him who knew no sin to be sin, so that we might become the righteousness of God in Christ. What a glorious exchange that is. And it is still the answer for every question. It's not 42. I don't care what Hitchhiker's Guide says. That's not the answer. The answer is the gospel. And I know all of us here in this Zoom meeting are committed to the truth of the Lordship of Christ. And yep.
Good words, man.
Thanks.
Mr. Larry?
So, regarding a favorite memory to just the pachyderm experience, I say it's as a whole, you know, the whole from signing on the dotted line to getting in the studio and meeting, you know, like Stayce and Tim and all the other guys and all the other label mates, and just the experience with JR and Doug and especially John and Dino, you know, and you know, and being worked, you know, going in there and I mean, you know, it wasn't playtime, you know, I mean, you think it's all fun and games, but I mean, it's work, man. And you know, just being a sponge and just soaking in as much knowledge as I can from these guys, because you know, they were it, you know, and just the opportunity, man, that God gave us, you know, and then to be able to sit here, you know, and just be in the company of the likes of Stayce and Tim, who I have so much respect for, and who I think are really truly in another class and level that I am, you know. It's really an honor, and I just feel blessed to be here, to be able to make records, and just the opportunity to spread God's word in a way that that I get to express me, you know, and what God has given me, because you know, without Him we can do nothing, right? This is all because of Him and what He has given us, and just being able to give back. You know, at my church, I'm the praise and worship leader, so I get to worship Him every Sunday morning, you know, just in that respect. You know, I worship Him all the time, but, you know, I mean, the opportunity to do that every Sunday morning is just a blessing and an honor. And again, and I just love it. I can't thank you guys enough for just, you know, even asking me to be here and join you guys. This is awesome. So thank you. And thank you to everybody who listens to our music, you know, not just Fear Not, but all of ours, you know, because I mean, doggone, Evie's Little Garden was just, you know, awesome, you know, and you know, obviously we know Tim's a genius. You know, I mean,
he's floating around out there somewhere. Look, he looks like a magazine cover right now. Science.
Not to mention, you know, I'm sitting here just going, am I really talking to Lauren Green right now?
Winner.
Well, Bonanza was a show about a 50-year-old man who lived on a ranch with his 40-year-old sons.
There you go. It's perfect.
So, you know,
they cut out the part about the studio out in the backyard, you know.
But anyways, yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. Appreciate you. And Stayce, what about you?
You guys have been so good to my band. From, you know, you kind of, we weren't really on a whole lot of things other than my buddy Steve Burton down in Oklahoma. He's been trying to keep the flame alive for us for a couple of years, but I think it's important to point out that John and Dino had a whole heck of a lot to do with the fact that you guys even have the ministry you have right now, because it was a trickle down effect. They helped us create the music that was in our hearts that we wanted to share with the world. We all were praying about it, but that led decades later, you know, I think all three of our band's music stands up pretty well. But then it opens up to where you guys are able to, you know, I can think of 2 or 3 other people right now where Area 312 has influenced these other podcasters that are coming up. Joel Walker, Jeremy with Torrential Riff. They all are watching you guys, just like as band members. I was watching Fear Not. I was watching what Love War was going to do. Fans. We were all fans. Well, you guys are doing the same thing. You may not know it, but I have a lot of conversations with these guys. Believe me, Evie's is kind of taking on a life of its own. I'm having conversations with a lot of people all the time that I don't quite understand, but I just kind of laugh. And you guys know I'm kind of a laid back dude, so I just enjoy it, laugh. And I was talking to a guy from Japan yesterday. I'm like, I don't know anyone from Japan, but thanks for listening to Evie's, man. I appreciate it. You know, my memories, the best times I had were that I attribute to John and Dino were the relationships they helped me establish. You know, they helped me. Larry and I have been friends nonstop since, you know, we don't talk all the time, but when we do, this last year we have, but we always stayed in touch, whether it was just a little, hey man, I hope you're doing okay, things like that. The funniest memories I had was, my favorite part as a musician was sitting, and you guys will laugh when you hear this. Of course, you guys didn't have keyboards on your records. Maybe you didn't get any of this, but I did. John would sit around with his headphones on, and he had this rolling keyboard. He'd just sit down in the hallway and put his headphones on. You can be talking to him, and he's talking to you. He's like, yeah. But he's fiddling away looking for the perfect chord change for whatever it was he was working on, whether it's my record or Petra or whoever else. But you could, sometimes he'd have it where you can actually hear what he was playing. But he was always sitting around the studio with a keyboard working on riffs. You know, he wasn't a guitar player, but he was every bit as good on a keyboard as, you know, I was on a guitar. But I always loved that, because I think if I compared myself to John and Dino, I'm way more like John, because I'm always looking for that perfect melody. I'm always looking for a chord change. I'm like, I mean, I'll listen to a pop song and go, I'm just looking for something I can steal from this verse. I'm just looking for a chord I haven't heard that hits another thing, because it's mine. Once I hear it, you didn't invent the notes. They're public domain. So if I can, you know, John used to always tell me, yeah, listen to this song, listen to that song. And he had the ability to kind of absorb that. And I think now I'm like that, but back then I was just all guitars. Now it's as much keyboards as it is guitars. But the funnest memory that I had was whenever you were in a room with the two of them and they were just cutting up, or if you just had Dino and he was in a joking mood, you weren't going to get very much done, because when he was in that mood, he would laugh more than anything, you know? So, but all in all, man, it was just a good time. It was a cool studio to be a part of. It was a fraternity that I'm proud to have been a part of, especially because I was such a huge Kansas fan anyway. And, you know, I'd set my goals on Pakaderm a long time before we actually got there. Fortunately for me, it worked out. And so without John and Dino, I don't have Evie's Little Garden. But Tim, unlike you, I didn't get that email from Dino. Hey, John and Dino, didn't you? You guys have a new jam? Come on, man. But as far as what we're working on, you guys already know Gravedigger's coming up, and it's in its final stages. I'm a song and a half away from being done. I'm already cutting my true guitars on it, and then I'm looking forward to whatever me and Larry are going to be doing. It's going to be, and by the way, I got a new song for us this morning, brother. So get ready.
Hey, let me just add just one real quick thing. Yeah, you're right. Both you guys are right. There was the dedication to making sure that your vocal take was right, and not just right, but that extra 10%. That's where the work comes in.
Yeah.
John kicked my butt.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Dino's a fun hang. I got a great Nashville. I played some sessions for the brothers in the 2000s. That's a whole nother thing. I think the biggest takeaway, you talk about being a sponge and listening and learning from these guys, you know, because they've made records, right? All we ever did was sit around and demo our stuff on 4 tracks and learn how to play better and sing better. We were sitting there, and we didn't we didn't use a click track on Soak Your Brain. That's all just one,
I
two,
can't even
three,
believe
go.
that.
Huh?
I can't even believe that.
Wow.
That's
Well,
awesome.
okay, whatever. It's true. But so in Keep Your Hands Off My Stuff, Michael, as a young conservative, I still get people saying, oh my goodness, that song's still true. Ah. We're coming into the riff before the solo, and Dino says, hey, Tim, drop the beat. Don't go 4, 3. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Now I do it for other bands. So, man, all props to the brothers.
Yeah. Wow.
Would like at this juncture really quick before Mike takes us to scripture closeout. Friends out there, I would like to say Stayce inadvertently prompted us, but our friend Joe Walker out there, he does have Imaginary Music. It's a podcast. Please look it up, Imaginary Music. And also Jeremy Brown has a YouTube channel here called Torrential Riff. He mostly does album reviews, but he also does have guest artists on, and he will be having more guest artists on. So a shout out then to our friend Jeremy Brown of Torrential Riff and Joel Walker from Imaginary Music Podcast.
Absolutely. Good
Tim
dude.
and Mr. Larry, Stayce, love you guys. Thank you for the great music. Thank you all for the wonderful message that's contained within. It's been a blessing to each of us, and we are grateful to be able to fellowship with you all and to hopefully keep that torch going of the great bands with the great message. And again, all glory to the Lord, because he's the one deserving of all praise. And with that said, Mike, take us to scripture closeout, buddy.
Big
Sure
Mike.
thing. Okay. So my thoughts on this episode were, bringing you guys together who are all part of this Pakaderm family, So you're kind of brothers in this family, and so that kind of took me to Hebrews 2:11, which says, "Both the one who makes people holy and those who are made holy are of the same family. So Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters."
Nice.
So, all of us who are in the faith, who are in Christ, we get to be part of this family with Christ, under God the Father, So just doing this episode the way we're doing it just kind of made me think of that. So, yeah.
Very nice.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time, and we will go ahead and sign off, but just stick around for one more moment if you don't mind. So thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate everybody. Take care.
We all live together, one big family. Can't be separated. Come on, brother, yeah, yeah, yeah.
God gave rock and roll to you, gave rock and roll to you, put it in the soul of everyone.